You have been told that money comes only from strategy, hustle, or bending yourself into shapes the world approves of. Yet, what if the opposite were true? What if wealth in its deepest form emerges only when you stop imitating and begin embodying? Jung foresaw this paradox. The closer you move to your authentic self, the more life aligns with you. But ask yourself how much of your striving has been for roles that left you empty? How often have you earned money by betraying yourself only to feel poorer inside? When you suppress your truth, you drain your energy, keeping masks alive. But when you embody your wholeness, energy flows freely, and that flow attracts others who sense the reality you carry. Is it not revealing that the work that feels most alive to you often resonates most with others? That your hidden talents, the ones you buried out of shame or fear, may be the very sources of value the world secretly longs for? So the piercing questions arise. How long will you keep chasing formulas that ignore who you are? How much longer will you trade authenticity for approval? How many more years will you envy others' success instead of living your own? And most urgently, what might happen if you stopped selling masks and started offering your real self? Because Jung's warning is merciless. What you deny will enslave you, but what you embody will free you. And perhaps in that freedom, you will find not only meaning, but prosperity. From the beginning, you were told that success required sacrifice. Not sacrifice of laziness, but sacrifice of authenticity. You learned to wear masks, the obedient student, the tireless worker, the agreeable friend. Each mask won you approval paychecks or status. But did it ever give you life? How many times have you reached a milestone, promotion, title, income, only to feel a hollowness inside? How often have you worked harder, not because you loved the work, but because you feared what would happen if you stopped performing? Modern culture feeds you formulas. Copy this trend, follow that path, chase what everyone else seems to want. And yet, if these formulas worked, why are so many exhausted, burned out, resentful of the very work that sustains them? Why is there such a gap between external achievement and internal satisfaction? Is it not because money gained through masks corrodes, while money gained through truth sustains? Jung saw this clearly. He warned that what you repress will enslave you. The parts of yourself you bury, your eccentricities, your gifts, your desires, do not disappear. They fester, they sabotage. Or they cry out until you finally listen. And paradoxically, those very parts, the ones you hide, are often the roots of your vocation. Have you not noticed that when you act from authenticity, energy flows easily? That when you force yourself into false roles, every step feels heavy, as if life itself resists you? The context is merciless. Prosperity without authenticity is bankruptcy of the soul. You can imitate and earn, but you cannot imitate and thrive. Money gained through masks will demand your life in return. But when you embody your real self, money becomes not master, but servant, an outflow of wholeness, not a substitute for it. So the piercing question presses in. Will you keep selling illusions for survival, or will you dare to profit from authenticity? For only when you align with the self does prosperity become more than transaction. It becomes transformation. To understand how making money by being yourself is not just possible, but inevitable, you must see it through Jung's lens. His psychology unmasks the hidden forces within you, the masks you wear, the shadows you bury, the wounds you carry, the projections you cast, and the self that waits beneath it all. Each element explains why false wealth corrodes and why authentic wealth sustains. The persona, money through masks. The persona is the mask you show the world, the agreeable professional, the disciplined student, the successful entrepreneur. These masks win you approval, promotions, and paychecks, but at the cost of your soul. How many years have you forced yourself to perform draining energy into roles that never felt alive? How often have you earned money only to feel hollow because you sold not your truth, but a mask? Jung warns that the persona is necessary but deadly when mistaken for the self. You can make money by wearing it, but it will bankrupt you in spirit. The moment you collapse into the mask, the income may continue, but the soul begins to starve. Ask yourself, are you rich in appearance but poor in essence? And how long can you sustain a life where the paycheck grows but your vitality withers? The shadow, buried gifts become gold. The shadow is not only your repressed fears and wounds, it is also your hidden talents and desires. Everything you pushed down because it felt dangerous, shameful, or unacceptable to others lies there. Jung insisted that your shadow contains not only darkness, but gold. Have you not noticed how many of your strengths emerged from what you once tried to hide? The eccentricity you buried could be the brand others admire. The curiosity you silenced could be the expertise people pay for. The fire you suppressed could be the passion that draws opportunity. But until you integrate the shadow, you will chase others' gifts and envy their success. Ask yourself, what have you buried that might now be your greatest source of value? What could the world reward if you dared to reveal what you once feared? Complexes, old wounds as false guides. Complexes are clusters of unresolved wounds that shape your choices without your awareness. A child belittled for dreaming learns to choose safe careers. A young adult praised only for achievement learns to overwork. A person abandoned in love learns to settle for approval instead of passion. These complexes drive you into work that pays the bills but chains the soul. Jung saw that healing a complex does not erase your past, it transforms it into wisdom. Ask yourself how much of your career path has been chosen by old wounds rather than by your true self. How many years have you spent proving your worth instead of living it? And what would happen if you stopped letting shame and fear dictate your labor? Projection, envy as mirror of potential. Projection occurs when you see in others what you deny in yourself. You envy the artist's freedom, the speaker's confidence, the entrepreneur's daring, not realizing you hunger for the very same qualities buried within you. How often have you looked at someone thriving in authenticity and thought, I wish I could live like that? Jung would say, the envy is not condemnation, but invitation. You project your unlived life onto them instead of owning it. Wealth gained by projection leads only to resentment. Wealth gained by integration turns envy into inspiration. Ask yourself, whose success do you envy most? And could it be a mirror of your own denied potential? The self-individuation as prosperity. At the center of Jung's psychology is the self, the wholeness you are called to embody. Individuation is the process of becoming that self, integrating persona, shadow complexes, and projections into a single authentic life. Prosperity, when seen from this lens, is not accumulation but alignment. When you live as the self, energy flows naturally, creativity arises without force, and others are drawn to your presence because it radiates wholeness. Have you not noticed how you trust those who seem real, unforced, and whole? How much more powerful is their influence compared to those straining behind masks? The same is true of you. Once you align with the self, money becomes a byproduct of integrity, not an end pursued in desperation. The interplay of these forces taken together, these forces explain why so many feel trapped. The persona earns but exhausts. The shadow hides gifts that could liberate. Complexes keep you chained to old wounds. Projections keep you chasing others' paths. And the self waits patiently for you to stop betraying it. When you ignore this architecture, you sell masks for money. When you honor it, you embody truth, and the world responds. Ask yourself, How much of your income has been persona-driven, shadow-denying, complex-fueled, projection-laden? And how much would change if you stopped chasing formulas and started embodying the self? Because Jung's insight is severe but liberating. What you deny will enslave you, but what you embody will free you. To make money by being yourself is not fantasy. It is the only path that does not collapse. The persona collapses, the shadow erupts, complexes sabotage, projections dissolve. But the self endures, and only by aligning with it can your prosperity endure as well. So the piercing question confronts you. Will you keep earning through masks that drain you, or will you finally uncover the shadow, heal the complexes, withdraw the projections, and live as the self? For only then does your wealth become not transaction, but transformation. And perhaps Jung predicted this because he knew the world will always pay for truth, but never for lies that rot from within. Theories remain distant until you see them reflected in the mirrors of ordinary life. Jung's warning about masks, shadows, and wholeness is not abstract. It plays out every day in the way you earn, create, relate, and serve. Consider how easily you recognize yourself in these examples and ask, where are you selling masks and where are you living as the self? Creative work, the cost of imitation. You love art, writing, music, or design. Yet when you perform only what trends dictate, you notice how quickly your energy fades. You copy the style others reward you, you bend your voice to fit the crowd, you churn out content for approval. The paycheck comes, but so does exhaustion. Have you not felt how hollow it is to be praised for something that is not truly yours? Now contrast that with the moment you dared to express your own eccentricity. Perhaps fewer applauded, but those who did felt it deeply, and they stayed. This is Jung's truth. Authenticity creates loyalty, while imitation creates burnout. So ask yourself, how many of your creative successes have been cages built of other people's expectations? And how long before the silence within demands your real voice? Business and service masks that collapse. Perhaps you built a business or career by promising what others wanted to hear. You wore the persona of professionalism, the mask of certainty, the smile of false harmony. And it worked for a time. Clients' paid promotions arrived, but each day felt like heavier theater. Then one day your energy snapped. The mask grew unbearable. This is the crisis Jung foresaw. Prosperity earned by the persona collapses because the soul refuses to fund it. By contrast, when you align your service with your true gifts, the flow reverses. Customers sense your reality. Trust grows without effort. You no longer beg for attention, it comes. So the question presses, how much of your income is built on pretense, and how much could be built on presence? Relationships, the currency of trust. Money and opportunity often flow through relationships. But consider how many of your connections are rooted in performance. You laugh at jokes you do not enjoy. You agree with ideas you secretly reject. You sustain networks by feeding masks. These bonds may yield favors or contracts, but they rot from within. Have you noticed how exhausting it is to maintain ties that demand you betray yourself? Now contrast it with a single relationship where you stood whole. That connection, even if fewer in number, carried weight. Real trust invites real opportunities. Ask yourself, how many doors have you kept closed by hiding, and how many could open if you showed your unmasked self? Family expectations, the inherited script. Perhaps you pursued stability, career, or income because family tradition demanded it. You became the lawyer, doctor, engineer, or responsible one, carrying generations of unspoken rules. Yet deep down, the work drained you. Jung warned that complexes bind you to inherited roles. They can make you rich in society's eyes, but impoverished in your own.
Have you not wondered why the approval of family never silenced the inner emptiness? And how long will you serve their script before you dare to write your own? Because only when you align with vocation rather than expectation does prosperity cease to corrode. Spirituality, the teacher of illusions. Even in spiritual or helping roles, the same dynamic emerges.
Some become teachers by mimicking formulas, selling inspiration without embodiment. They may earn, but eventually collapse, exposed by hollowness. Others, by contrast, live their truth without pretense, and people flock to them, sensing the alignment. Which one are you? The one sustaining illusions for approval? Or the one daring to stand in truth even if it costs popularity? Have you not noticed how the former fades quickly while the latter endures? Everyday life, the energy of authentic work. Even outside dramatic careers, the principle repeats. The work you force yourself to perform, whether in office, craft, or service, drains you if it does not align with yourself. Yet the work that flows naturally, that feels like play, even when it is labor, carries energy that others cannot ignore. How many hours have you lost pretending enthusiasm, and how many could you gain by investing in what feels alive? The truth is merciless. You cannot fake vitality. And vitality, once revealed, draws opportunities, income, and influence more powerfully than any strategy. The common thread masks versus self across creativity, business relationships, family, spirituality, and daily labor, the same truth emerges. Money gained through masks corrodes. Money gained through the self sustains. The persona exhausts. The shadow hides gifts. Complexes trap you. Projections distract you, but the self restores wholeness. Ask yourself, how many of your pursuits are transactions with masks, and how many are transformations born of truth? How much longer will you sustain pretense for survival when you could embody the self for abundance? Because Jung's warning is relentless. What you deny will enslave you, and what you embody will free you. These examples are not distant, they are your own life mirrored back. The question is whether you will keep earning through roles that suffocate you, or whether you will dare to profit from authenticity. For only then does prosperity endure, not as borrowed script, but as your own vocation revealed. Do you want me to continue with part 5? Mechanism analysis next, around 800 words to show why these examples collapse under persona but flourish under self. The collapse of false prosperity and the rise of authentic prosperity do not happen by chance. They follow a precise psychological architecture. Jung described the interplay of persona, shadow complexes, projection, and the self as the hidden machinery of your life. When you live by masks, the machine corrodes. When you align with the self, the machine flows. To understand why making money by being yourself is not a slogan but a necessity, you must examine how these mechanisms work in you. Psychological persona as a failing engine. The persona, your public mask, allows you to survive in society. It smiles, obeys, performs. At first, it wins, rewards, promotions, approval, even income. Yet its fuel is borrowed. It runs on external validation, not internal fire. This is why so many collapse in midlife, burned out by roles that once brought praise. Have you not felt the exhaustion of selling enthusiasm you do not feel? Have you not sensed that the professional mask, while useful, cannot sustain real vitality? Money gained through persona corrodes because it demands endless performance. The psyche rebels, the mask cracks, and when it does, the income tied to it collapses as well. Emotional shadow gifts. Denied beneath the persona, lives the shadow, the denied traits, desires, and talents you buried out of fear or shame. Much of your vitality is trapped there. Perhaps you hid creativity because family mocked it, or silenced ambition because it was called arrogance. Yet those very traits may hold the seed of your vocation. Jung warned, what you repress returns with vengeance. When you deny your shadow gifts, you starve yourself of energy. And energy is the true currency of prosperity. Ask yourself how many of your gifts lie buried in silence while you force yourself to mimic others. How much money have you forfeited by refusing the very talents that could distinguish you? Integration releases power, suppression leaks it. Behavioral complexes as invisible saboteurs. Complexes are wounds from childhood that still govern you. Perhaps you were told you would never succeed, and so you overcompensate with endless striving. Perhaps you were praised only when obedient, and so you work in roles that suffocate you. Complexes turn your work into a repetition of trauma. You think you are choosing freely, but you are enacting an old script. This is why certain jobs drain you, certain bosses feel parental, certain goals feel compulsory. Have you not noticed how often your work life mirrors unresolved family dynamics? Until complexes are healed, you chase money not from freedom but from compulsion. And compulsion corrodes. Ethical projection as the currency of envy. Projection distorts your perception of success. You look at others and see in them the power you disown in yourself. You envy their wealth, resent their influence, chase their formulas. But what you see is only a mirror of your own denied authority. This is why imitation fails you. You are trying to live someone else's individuation instead of your own. Have you not envied another's path only to find it hollow when you tried to walk it? Wealth pursued by projection leads to resentment because it never satisfies. The energy was never yours. Only when you withdraw the projection and own your own capacity does prosperity feel clean. Existential, the self as the true source. At the center of Jung's thought lies the self, the wholeness that calls you to integrate persona, shadow, and complexes into unity. The self is not a role, it is your true nature. And here lies the paradox. The closer you align with the self, the more life aligns with you. People are drawn to authenticity because it radiates integrity. Opportunities flow not because you force them, but because others sense the reality in you. Have you not noticed how those who seem real attract trust, while those who strain behind masks repel it? Prosperity rooted in the self endures because it is not performance, it is presence. The interlocking cycle. These mechanisms do not act separately, they interlock. The persona exhausts you. Shadow repression drains your gifts. Complexes drive you into roles that repeat wounds. Projections distract you into chasing illusions. The result is income without meaning, prosperity that feels like debt. But when you break the cycle, integrating the shadow, healing complexes, withdrawing projections, the self takes its place. Suddenly, energy flows, creativity returns. Relationships deepen. Money becomes not a desperate chase, but a byproduct of wholeness. The severe clarity. So the piercing questions confront you. How much longer will you trade vitality for performance? How many more years will you bury gifts that could sustain you? How long will you repeat family scripts in your work? Instead of writing your own, how often will you envy others instead of embodying yourself? And most urgently, will you dare to endure the silence of transition until the self births authentic prosperity? Because Jung's warning is merciless. What you deny enslaves you, and what you embody frees you. The mechanism is clear. The mask collapses, the repression drains. The wound repeats. The envy corrodes. Only integration sustains. To make money by being yourself is not luxury, it is survival. Anything less will eventually collapse. Would you like me to now continue with Part 6? Practical application, about 900 words, to translate this mechanism into specific daily steps you can practice. The temptation is to treat prosperity as a formula. 5 steps, 3 hacks, 1 secret strategy. But Jung's psychology reveals something more demanding. Making money by being yourself requires inner work before outer gain. You cannot sell masks forever without collapse. You cannot bury your shadow without draining your energy. You cannot repeat complexes without sabotaging yourself. To profit authentically, you must practice fidelity to the self each day. Observation: where life flows and where it drains you. Your first task is ruthless honesty. Notice the difference between activities that drain you and those that give you energy. Where do you feel heavy, sluggish, resentful? Where do you feel alive, even when the work is hard? Jung would call this observing the movement of libido, the psychic energy that shows what is real for you. Do you not already know which pursuits feel like performance and which feel like truth? How much of your income has come from exhaustion and how much from vitality? Begin charting the difference, for money without energy is debt to the soul. Boundaries: refusing to sell masks. The second task is refusal. You must stop selling roles that no longer serve you. Every time you perform for approval, you reinforce the persona and betray the self. Boundaries protect your energy from being drained by false pursuits. This may mean saying no to projects, clients, or jobs that demand masks. It may mean enduring the discomfort of less income temporarily to preserve the integrity that will sustain future prosperity. Ask yourself, how often have you betrayed your own truth for a paycheck? And how much longer can you afford that betrayal before collapse becomes irreversible? Shadow work: claiming buried gifts. Third, you must turn toward your shadow, for much of your earning power lies there. The talents you disowned, the desires you suppressed, the eccentricities you hid, all hold keys to your vocation. Perhaps your creativity was mocked, your ambition shamed, your curiosity belittled. Yet those traits may contain the uniqueness that others will pay for. Jung insisted that integration releases energy, suppression leaks it. Will you continue to deny the parts of yourself that could sustain you? Or will you dare to reclaim the very gifts you buried, even if others disapprove? Reframing money as byproduct, not master. The fourth task is reframing your relationship to money. When you make it the master, you collapse into fear, envy, and compulsion. When you treat it as byproduct, it flows as the servant of your authenticity. Jung warned that what you idolize becomes your tyrant. Have you not noticed how the more desperately you chase money, the more it eludes you? And how, when you act from wholeness, opportunities seem to come unforced? The reframing is merciless but freeing. Stop chasing money as an end. Start embodying yourself as the source. The income will follow. Daily fidelity: small acts of truth. Finally, your task is daily fidelity. Authenticity is not built in grand gestures, but in small, consistent acts. Each day, choose one action that aligns with yourself. Write the peace you've avoided. Create the art you've buried. Speak the truth you've withheld. Decline the role that drains you. These acts accumulate into a life. They build trust with yourself and with others. Ask yourself, if you practiced one act of truth each day, where would you be in a year? Would your life not look radically different? Sustained not by masks, but by wholeness. Relational discernment. Who honors your authenticity? You must also examine your relationships. Some people benefit from your masks and will resist your authenticity. Others thrive when you thrive. Distinguish between them. Who punishes you when you stop performing? Who respects you even when you stand whole? Prosperity flows when you align with those who honor yourself. Ask how many of your connections exist only to sustain your illusions, and how many could endure the weight of your truth. The severe patience, enduring the in-between. Perhaps the hardest application is patience. Once you strip masks and reclaim gifts, there will be a gap. Old income streams may fade before new ones arise. The temptation will be strong to regress, Sell the mask, take the false role, betray the self for quick relief. But the self does not move on demand. Its fire grows slowly. Will you endure the silence until new prosperity arises? Or will you betray your awakening to escape discomfort? Patience here is severe, but it is the only path to lasting abundance. The living practice. So the piercing questions confront you. How much of your current work is transaction with masks, and how much is transformation born of truth? How many of your gifts lie buried in your shadow, waiting to be reclaimed? How long will you chase money as master instead of treating it as servant? And most urgently, will you practice daily fidelity to the self, even when it costs you comfort? Because Jung's warning is merciless. What you deny will enslave you. But what you embody will free you. Making money by being yourself is not indulgence, it is necessity. Masks collapse. Shadows erupt. Complexes sabotage. Projections mislead. Only the self sustains. Your task is severe but liberating, to honor the self daily, to refuse illusions, to reclaim gifts, to endure silence, and to trust that prosperity flows not from pretense, but from presence. Would you like me to now close the sequence with part 7? Conclusion and CTA around 350 words to seal the message with a decisive call. The temptation is always to chase formulas, to copy what appears to work for others, to trade masks for money. But masks collapse, and every false script rots from within. Jung warned that what you repress will enslave you, but what you embody will free you. And nowhere is this truer than in the realm of prosperity. Money gained through pretense corrodes. Money gained through authenticity sustains. So ask yourself now, how many of your current pursuits are transactions with masks? How often do you silence your gifts for safety? How many of your days are spent performing for approval instead of creating from wholeness? How long will you keep treating money as master, when it was meant to be servant? And most urgently, what might your life look like if you finally trusted that your real self is the only capital you will never lose? The truth is severe but liberating. You cannot make money by being someone else without paying for it with your soul. But when you dare to embody your wholeness, you discover that energy flows, creativity endures, and others are drawn to your presence because it radiates integrity. Prosperity, then, is not luck, but alignment. It is not gimmick, but individuation. Your task is clear. Refuse the persona, reclaim the shadow, heal your complexes, withdraw projections, and embody the self. Each act of fidelity is not only a step toward wholeness, but also a foundation for lasting wealth. So the final question confronts you. Will you keep selling illusions until they collapse? Or will you risk authenticity and discover that the world pays most for what is real? Today, choose one act of truth in your work, your art, your service. Offer not the mask, but the self. For only then will your prosperity endure, not as borrowed script, but as your vocation revealed.